Hello, 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 hello. We hope that your spines are soft and activated and that you are feeling multidimensional. Can you feel your frequency? Wow, this is our day to check in with everyone, day 3 of this quantum conversation experience. So, Anrita, I'm going to check in with you first as we wait for comments, or maybe someone wants to raise their hand and share their voice. I'm always curious, as a person who facilitates these beautiful teachings, you do it in your own life. They're actually what you do. You walk the walk, you walk the talk, actually. So what is it like for you when you first started embracing this sacred spine? What happened to you?
Well, firstly, thank you, beloved Lorraine. Thank you for that wonderful introduction and welcome to our beautiful Light Tribe. I really do feel that energy of all of us gathering here right now as one heart, and it's just so incredible when we're coming together as the Light Tribe. And Lorraine was saying the Heart Tribe. I just love that too. So thank you all for joining us. And yes, this essential process is something that we are actually all going through. So when I share, particularly in the last 10 years or so, it's through direct experience of what has occurred through my body. And the process for all of us is that we move from, one could say, star seed to soul seed to galactic being, and then to purity, God, self, higher aspects of ourselves. This is a process that we move through. And the beginning part of that journey for all of us is essentially the ascension, where we are ascending, where we are connecting to our higher self aspects, our multidimensional aspects. Of course, the overlighting of all the beautiful illumined beings of light and the company of heaven, whether this be the archangels or angels or galactics or mighty Elohim or beautiful higher self, guides, guardian angels, all of that is initially outside of ourselves. So, what we're doing is that we're increasing the frequency and the vibration and consciousness and light of our energy and of our body in order to really just align. One could call that the initial soul alignment. And in that initial soul alignment, what we're doing is that we're clearing the density from within the body. So that's the first stage that we all go through. And as awakened souls, particularly those of us that are star seeds, we follow this process because the star seed light codes are initially activating a light. And that's when many of us might be channels or speaking in different light languages or doing our galactic art or whatever it might be. The way that we speak, everything is an activation through the DNA to that remembrance of being star seeds, and also whether we are one star seed primarily or whether we've traveled to different planets and stars, all of that is initially activating for us. And we move through this dimensional shift from the 3D that we talk about, which we know is, we call that the hell matrix, where everyone is very deeply asleep and it's very much just about me, me, me. Then we're waking up into the 4D, and the 4D I call the heaven and hell matrix. And we're there really for a very long time because that's when we go through this very deep density clearing. That's when we're starting to become more multidimensional. So it's not just moments, because when we are meditating or when we're listening to a beautiful transmission, that initially for us is moments. So we experience for a very long time that alignment. Those are those moments of magic and bliss. And then the misalignment. And the misalignment is essentially then just that process where we're clearing all the density, the false beliefs, the judgments, the traumas, the programs, the old stories that every single one of us has experienced. And some of us really were very deeply asleep or experienced a lot of trauma because we were able and are able to shift so much of what we have experienced from a 3D timeline or even a 4D timeline.
Sorry, there's an echo. Sorry.
So much. So what we're doing then is from that perspective is we're moving then into greater levels of the light where we are embodying it now. And that's the first fifth dimensional energy that we embody, is the divine feminine aspects, but the soul starts to embody them. So rather than just being outside of us, what is occurring now is we're moving into soul embodiment. So that initial stage of soul embodiment is where photonic light, that's the soul light, photonic light is soul light, descends into the body, initially through the antakarana, and then into every cell in the body, and the body fills with photonic air bubbles. And that is the place where it's a very soft, gentle 0 point presence. That's where we're moving into the now moment. And in that now moment, that is what we call 0 point presence. It's the awareness, being the witnessing presence of the beloved I am, being the observer. It doesn't mean that all our lessons are over, because apart from our own personal karma, what we've got is planetary karma. And that means that we're clearing for the sacred earth. So we take on a portion of the karma of humanity, which is also those moments where we may be feeling within the field, in that collective consciousness, just very deep moments that's coming up for us, whether it may be grief, or it may be sadness, or it may be anger, or it may be frustrations, because it's a collective clearing, and we're clearing that collectively for humanity. And all karma that we're clearing, regardless, actually comes through from a galactic perspective. It's a galactic karma. So it's really through the DNA that we're clearing those falls from grace, one could say, in different time periods, and deepening into self-mastery. So from that 0 point presence, we deepen into self-love and self-nurturing. We start to soften. Everything starts to soften within us. And that's the place where the heart then continuously stays open, no matter what we are experiencing, with each moment offering an opportunity to love more, not less. And then from that space and place of presence, what we start to do then is deepen from the feminine then into the masculine. So we move from then the fifth dimensional frequency and soul embodiment into the sixth dimension. And the sixth dimension then is more the divine masculine. And that draws to us the higher self aspects of our Syrian higher self. I always like to think of the fifth dimension as the overlighting and embodiment of our Pleiadian aspects. It's soft, it's gentle, it's flowing. Everything becomes a moment of grace and divine presence. And sixth dimensionally, we're stepping deeper into the soul authority, soul sovereignty, aligning our will with the will of God. And that's when we start to experience more of the higher self aspects and multidimensional aspects embodying, but also through the plasma light. So we've got the loving heart expanding. That's the first place for all of us. Then we're continuously clearing the chakras. And in particular, the lower three chakras are representing for us the lower dimensions. And from the heart and the upper chakras representing the higher dimensions. Of course, this isn't a linear process. It's a very circular process. So we're actually experiencing all of what I'm sharing simultaneously. It's just that this, as it slows down, we're experiencing particular gateways that are relative to our frequency and our consciousness and our light. So as we deepen now from the fifth dimension into the sixth dimension, the divine masculine, what we're now also experiencing is the spine activating as the central operating system of the body. So from the loving heart expanding as the inner golden sun, it expands into the thymus, and then it also expands into the solar plexus. If one thinks about it, it's the solar frequency of the sun. The sun not only brings through the light codes that assist us to expand in our consciousness and in our light, but it's the collective beloved I am presence actually encodes those light codes, one could say, within the sun, and that's what we start to receive. So the pineal then represents for us the ability to shift beyond the veils of illusion, and we have a 360-degree view then, one could say, of our universe, and what we call our natural gifts start to activate for us. We become more clairsentient, clairvoyant, the ability to feel, to hear, to sense, to see, all of that is within the quantum field. We can tune into anyone quantumly, and also we experience a lot in the inner planes. We connected to a lot of the inner plane ashrams, cities of light, many of the masters that we work with. I personally work a lot with Saint Germain. You might see with the beloved I Am Presence teachings coming through in its own unique way. But that's also connecting into Manchester, into the ascension seat within Manchester. There's also other places I'll wake up and have a memory of, whether it's sacred cities, various gateways or sacred sites, but also teachings, sometimes as a student and sometimes as a newer guide. So things shift for us very much as we deepen now into the higher dimensions, where we open the gateways and portals through the loving heart. We actually continuously are rewriting from each moment and recoding from each moment into that next level of our consciousness and light, or one could say into the next level of the realm of consciousness. And with that, then the physical body becomes the light body. And in that same process, what occurs is we move through different phases of the light body. So the spine then becomes the central operating system of the body. And that's now where we're experiencing the masculine and feminine in perfect harmony, or this divine alchemical marriage, while we're continuously birthing new creative realms of consciousness that expand our service work upon the sacred earth, and in fact in different star systems and planets too. So the spine then experiences this golden frequency that we call the golden river of the grace of the Divine Mother. But it's also very masculine energy, so it needs to soften first. So if you think about the spine as being quite rigid initially, so that's the rigidness of the 3D, isn't it? That's the masculine energy of the 3D. So the divine masculine energy is initially a very soft energy. It's a feminine masculine, and then we also have a masculine energy, but mostly everything is done through the heart of love. And the spine has to soften initially to release all the old programs stored within each vertebra, each sacred gateway. And then we realign, we recode through each gateway, the same as we do through each cell. And this now fills the body with plasma light. So we have two primary frequencies at the moment. We've got photonic light, and now we have plasma light. So the initial light body then is the crystalline light body of photonic infusion, because the crystalline is the Christ consciousness. That's the golden frequency into which we expand. And the plasma light frequency starts now to shift the frequency of the cells from the carbon to silicate to crystalline consciousness. And this is a process then where the physical body actually becomes light. We become light. So the initial process for us to go back is the ascension process, and that is where we are ascending in our consciousness, and then we descending. But that is the spiritual ascension. So the physical ascension is where we live new earth in our light bodies, where every cell becomes light. So remember too, we are only at the consciousness of our body. So if there's a lot of discomfort still within our physical body, it shows that there is a lot of unprocessed programs, stories, traumas, false beliefs that have impacted different body parts, organs, whatever it might be. And this is what we're clearing. And we do this with both photonic light and with plasma light. And this becomes the crystalline frequency where every subatomic particle starts to spin and increase light. So that increased light then actually slows us down. Time itself, as a multidimensional frequency, we have the ability to stretch it, one could say, to experience time from a multidimensional perspective. Is there's just only each now moment, and each day usually for us, the templates of yesterday are already wiped. So we don't really remember what occurred before this moment, because we're continuously dissolving and we're continuously ascending. And even what we believe in this moment might change in that next now moment. So it's a very interesting place to be, but it's also very trippy. And it's also only those beautiful, courageous souls that are choosing this ascension journey to hold the light for the sacred earth, because it's the hardest, most challenging thing that we choose in any lifetime, to be the light of God upon the sacred earth, to be our beloved I am presence. So the beloved I am presence then is the embodiment of all the soul consciousness aspects, all the higher self aspects, and then the monadic aspects of our consciousness. But the body fills with that because the beloved I am presence lives within us. And we start to deepen into a greater level of trust and surrender and softening within our own lives. But it is a process. And that initial process, at least moving from the 3D to 5D, particularly that 4D level of consciousness, you can experience a great deal of discomfort. So the body's needing a lot of downtime. The body's not only needing to step out into Gaia's light grids and Gaia consciousness, because that's where we feel the pulse of Mother Earth as the one heart. That's when we're out in nature, but there's also a lot of plasma light grids around that we're connecting into. And there's a lot actually that is activating upon the sacred earth. So whether it's through people that are gatekeepers, grid keepers, that they take into particular sacred sites, I'm also noticing, and this is just like a sidetracking a little bit here, but that's all right. Dragons. It's a lot of dragon energy is coming back. There used to be dragons on the sacred earth. And so now we're seeing the energy of the dragons coming back. So we're seeing then the consciousness of awakened souls increasing through the unity grid, where we become the unity grid. We are the physical vessels of light. And each time we ascend not only in the consciousness, but expand into the frequency of the unity grid as the physical vessels, we're sharing then those energetic frequencies for others. So we're moving continuously into higher realms and higher levels of consciousness, but we have to hold it. And that's then for a long time what we experience, going back to this alignment and misalignment. And this process of energy that we experience primarily, there are many dimensions, but for us as awakened souls, we work with up to 12 dimensions. But right here for now, I'm just going to take us through the up until the 6th dimension, because there's not so many people that are actually experiencing more than that. They're experiencing moments of the 7th dimension. We start to move more into sacred geometry. We're moving more into sound and color frequencies. We also hear a lot of the inner sonic frequencies through the inner ears, and they're different pitches according to what is occurring on the sacred earth, whether it's, for example, solar flares, which affect our consciousness, whether it's the Schumann's grid, whether it's even low level radiation frequencies, all of that affects our consciousness, at least for a while. And as we move deeper into the creation of the light body, or the phases rather of the light body, we move through different levels of the photonic plasma light and photonic plasma crystalline light, then into diamond light frequencies, greater into purity frequencies. And we also start to merge not only with those higher self aspects of ourselves, but also with our angelic aspects, our galactic aspects, our Elohimic aspects, our ascended master aspects. And what occurs for us too, along with the spine activating now, which is what we're working here, it's a very powerful way to work through the bones and work through the density, which is also in itself very uncomfortable. We experience the star particles activating through the pineal gland. And these are tiny little crystals, and they change color. You can start to probably see them on your own bodies, depending how much light you've activated from within. If you put your hands in the sun, you will start to probably see tiny little crystals, and they change colors depending on the light body phase that you are in. But we also start to expand what I call the angelic wings. So we have different angel wings that literally unfurl, as the spine comes up, that's also, I jump around a little bit, but if one had to look at this from a linear perspective, it would be the stage after we have worked along the spinal column. But of course, because everything occurs simultaneously, we're popping in and experiencing these various realms of consciousness, but it's also really mapping through the physical body, because the physical body is essentially the light body. So everything has to come back into transforming the physical body into the light body. And that's why this sacred spine alignment, quantum healing activation is so very, very powerful, because it's not only deepening into the remembrance and experience of being the soul and higher self aspects here. And of course, with that, the beloved I am presence, but it's actually just an incredible place for the divine architecture of our new earth bodies that are unfolding for all of us. And many of us, depending on where we are once more, can be very confused by what is happening. I know for me in my initial journey, it was very confusing because, I was a channel for many years until 2017. And then I woke up and suddenly I wasn't channeling and everything was quiet. All that connection that I would feel naturally to the illumined beings of light, to call forth the Melchizedek consciousness energy, the archangels, the galactics, it was quiet. It was just me and my soul. That's probably the best way I could describe the presence. But it was also then offering me the opportunity to change everything that I needed to in my life. And it was a process. I went through probably about 7 years on and off to do a huge amount of that clearing. I find that we go through these different light body stages in approximately 7 years. But for those that are really holding that purity from within for a very long time, there are a few people that I know that have taken it in a couple of years, 2, 3, 5 years. But on average, each of the light body phases that we move through will take approximately 5 to 7 years. And then we move into the next level and into the next level. But the beginning stages in particular are very, very challenging. The body wants to sleep and the mind wants to be, but the human wants to get up and move and, starts to still feel this great discomfort or this great guilt or the need to, from a survival perspective, to get up, to be creating, to be doing. And it's a very interesting place where we're shifting from the 3D into the multidimensional 0 point, into the ability to flow, into the ability to trust, into the ability to surrender, into the ability to know that we are a universe. And the universe will always present whatever that next challenge is with the greatest level of grace and ease. It's just the human and the ego. So the 4D is really something that we jump back to quite a bit when we are clearing. And that's for all of us. We continuously ascend and then we come back there. And that is a very challenging place to be, because it's not only a deep sleep or meditation or being out in nature, if we can do that, but we go through a lot of psychosis. So there are moments when we might feel very depressed, or there are moments where we might experience being a lot of ADHD activity occurring for us, or manic depression, or just really feeling completely out of our body, or the 3D mind not actually even understanding what's occurring from a multidimensional perspective and feeling like we're going completely mad. But what is occurring is, apart from the pineal activating, then we've got the pituitary activating, and we've got the hypothalamus and thalamus activating. We've got a whole lot of different hormones in the body. And so this also, then the body starts to heat up a lot. That's the crystalline consciousness. So we're starting to feel this is the fire frequency. And this year, actually, for many souls, we're experiencing this collectively. I call it it's a phoenix rising, but it's also a fire frequency activating through the body. And it's a very interesting place to be, but it's also a very challenging place to be, because it's bringing everything up more quickly for us to be able to shift trajectory and to quantum jump into all that is highest aligned. And it's a process where we're going to do it in each now moment, being continuously conscious which on its own is a very, very challenging place to be initially as a witnessing presence of the beloved I am, because it requires a lot of observation. It requires us to see what we're still working on and then to choose to do that differently the next time, rather than be defensive, rather than be aggressive, rather than someone upsets us and, we jump into that frequency and that energy and we draw that person to us. We see it as the program, the script, the story, the old earth frequency that it is, and we choose to clear it. But if we're not doing that, we're going to call once more into our reality all those karmic mates and timelines that we're still clearing, and we're going to play it out. That's why all the world is a stage anyway. So what the sacred spine alignment quantum activation does is it not only aligns us more deeply into the energy of our higher selves and beloved I am presence, but it starts to clear the density from within the body and within the bones. And this is a very, very big thing for us. And we start to soften a lot more, but it can also work on so many different levels, whether we're working on a physical level, whether we're working on an energetic level, whether we're working on a holographic level, or actually a quantum level. We can take this energy and share it with another, whether they are here next to us or whether they're on the other side of the planet. It really doesn't matter. That's what occurs when we deepen into quantum consciousness. So I'm very excited to share this with you. And before I go any further, maybe we can see if there are any questions. I see that Marcy's raised her hand.
Thank you so much for this explanation, Anrita. Marcy, hello. Share your comment.
Hello, ladies, and thank you so much for all this beautiful information. So you just mentioned bones. I had 11 fractures in my spine. I'm on a path of healing. How can you direct me to work with my spine to heal it and regenerate?
Well, the one thing, firstly, Marcy, with the spine is that is probably your soul in one level, providing you with that opportunity to not only slow down, but for the spine to soften and then for the spine to come back online as the primary operating system for your body. But what I find for us is as the spine softens, it is often very difficult to sit on chairs for a very long time, because if you think about it, if you're standing a lot or you're sitting a lot, there's a lot of rigidity. So what you want to do is get yourself comfortably relaxed on a bed with say a computer table on your lap if you work for some hours in a day, and have lots of cushions behind your back and a lot of cushions behind under your knees, lifting up your knees. That's the first thing to soften the body. The second thing to soften that is, apart from magnesium, which is really, really useful for the body, and for some people calcium, but primarily magnesium. It's also vitamin D is a very, very good one. Vitamin D, K2, that also works a lot with the bones. So you're starting to work now with what vitamins can I take for my body? And then also getting out in nature as much as possible, lying down on the grass. What occurs then is you're connecting into the energy of the earth and you're receiving part of the plasma light grid. So I would suggest that, and also the sun gazing. If you can gaze at the sun for about 5 or 10 minutes in the morning and evening, you're not only receiving the sun codes that activate the pineal gland, but remember the cerebrospinal fluid through the spine is flowing up, it's placing pressure upon the pineal gland, and it's activating the star particles, which are also healing the body, which are also assisting in releasing the trauma. And then you're starting to activate then not only photonic light, but plasma light. So all of this becomes important in the healing wholeness of the body. And just soften, take each moment to love more, not less, and catch yourself in observation of what you're working with, but do as much work as you can. And if at this stage you can't for yourself, get someone to do body work for you, because the body work is where you're going to go deep into those places that you're still needing to work with, that are stuck, that are creating but it's the tension in the back or the shoulders. You can literally feel where we're contracting for many of us because our body is screaming that loudly for us. The same way photonic light screams loudly, every level of psychosis and everything that we've got to shift. But what I have, for example, is a massage stick. And, it's just a very useful one to be able to work with. And the other one that's actually very useful for you while we're talking about all of this are those plates, the vibrating plates. If you stand on that, what that is doing is it's increasing the speed, one could say, it's vibrating the body. So what we do is we vibrate. So remember that each cell in the body spins an increased light. It's actually a vibration where we're spinning out the density within the body and the body is vibrating. That's what we do. The body is like a vortex, and that vibration, whether we're doing it through, of course, our own consciousness and light, and assisting it through things like the vibrating plates and the massage of the body and other techniques that really work with the body, we start to activate the macabre, the light body. So that's also what starts to occur for us. There are so many different things, but for you in the beginning stages, mostly it's to be as gentle as possible and to lie down as much as possible, but also to utilize that time constructively and to do as much body work as what you can.
Well, thank you. That is beautiful. Do you get a sense that I'm going to heal?
Yes, of course we all do. We all are in that place where we're healing. We're moving from healing to wholeness. So it's just to honor where you are and to really truly acknowledge that this was part of what you chose to be your higher self here and now. And to just deepen into that wholeness by stepping up in each now moment to assist yourself as much as possible. The primary difference between us as multidimensional beings and humans, one could say, is a human wants everyone to do it for them. Do this for me, do that for me. Do the massage for me, do the body work for me, do everything for me. And whereas multidimensional beings, we take advantage of the fact that we can do it ourselves for the most part. Although, of course, we're always in that community and holding that energy and that love and that loving energy. We do as much as we can for ourselves. We empower ourselves. We step up. We tune into our own body. We tune into our own frequency. And talking of that, the other wonderful thing, there's the Hertz frequencies. There's some very powerful Hertz frequencies out there that you can work with that will shift the consciousness of the body and assist in that healing wholeness energy that you're needing. Particularly through the spine, there actually are Hertz frequencies that you can get that correlate to the spine. If you go and have a look, I don't know offhand, but they definitely, you can find it probably on YouTube.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Anrita.
You're most welcome, Marcy. Yes.
Okay, let's hear from Ron. Hi, Ron.
Hi, Lauren. Hi. I'm so happy to be at your show. And Rita, thank you so much from you, both of you. Have blessed my life so much to meet you. As you know, in 2015, when I met you, you really blessed me so much. I thank you so much for being, on this planet. And I just want to say thank you. But I did have a question, and I'm going to try my best to ask you this way. I heard over the next 7 years from some other master class, I forgot, can't recall right at the second the person's name. It would be like living 60 years. And I wanted to ask you, because I'm already 60 something already, but if we live in those 7 years and we have this accelerated stuff, like you said, and then we're increasing our vibration and stuff like that, you had just said, can you tell what stage of the light bodies we're in and stuff like that?
Yes, I absolutely can. But for many, it's mostly in the beginning stages still, because it's a crystalline consciousness, the energy of the soul embodiment of being the presence that most are still working on. But when you were speaking about, the 7 years is a very interesting one for us because all these cycles for us are usually in seven. And of course, as we know, this is a time of new beginning because we just completed a 7-year cycle. So this year is this new 7-year cycle, and it's also a new 9-year cycle. The sevens and nines actually go hand in hand. And it's a very powerful now moment because more and more souls are awakening and expanding the light upon the sacred earth. And as more and more of us awaken, what happens is, of course, we expand the light upon the sacred earth, working with the many illumined beings of light from on high. And of course, Mother Earth is also doing all her own beautiful light work. If we can say that, she's just expanding her light continuously. So we definitely are going to have different trajectories on timelines. And, people have talked about the earth splitting, but it's not really how that works. We just have a lower frequency and we have a higher frequency, and we can live it all simultaneously. So it's not like we're going to have two different earths, for example, and we're not going, I've heard some people also say, oh, well, we become light and we become invisible. That's not really one of the gifts. What happens is we simply become light. You will start to just look a little bit very light colored, one could say, because of the light that the body holds. But every single one of us is offered this opportunity to expand the light of the beloved I am presence from within as the light of God that we are. And so to do that, we have to align into what is soul aligned in each now moment. We have a choice in each now moment. So we can choose to be the living embodiment of the beloved I am, or we can choose lower frequencies and thought forms and stay there. That is again a choice. So that means, for example, we could choose to eat burgers all day, and not that I'm saying that that's a good thing or bad thing. I'm just saying in terms of frequency and energy, it's not a very high energy. And watch Netflix. Let's say we choose that life that all we do is sit indoors and eat burgers and watch Netflix and maybe smoke and drink. And again, there's no judgment because we've all been to hell and back a gazillion times. So if that's where you are, it could be that you're clearing timelines. But if you're living that life continuously, then all you're continuously doing is living in a low frequency. So what we want to do is to shift our frequency to continuously align our universe to every area within our life that is unconscious, every area within our life that needs purification, every area within our life where there is still discomfort, where there is still misalignment. That's what we're looking at, however it may be. And so then what we do is, once we deepen into making the choices that are more soul aligned, more opens for us, and we start to collapse and dissolve a lot of the old timelines, and often with people in it that are no longer supportive to us and our frequency and our light. And we choose not to hold then all those old people or need approval or play out in the 3D realm, because we've been there, done that a gazillion times, and we don't need to do it anymore. So we step into a new frequency, and initially it requires a lot of effort, because if you can think about it from the ego perspective, the ego will always be the one justifying, the ego will always be the one defending, the ego will never step down. So we then have two voices. We've got the ego voice and the higher self voice from that 4D perspective for a long time. After a while, we actually have a gazillion voices for a while, because we're integrating so many of those higher self aspects of ourselves. But for a while, we now have the ego, and then you've got the higher self. So the observational awareness as a witnessing presence at that time is to be able to speak from the higher perspective, and to align from the higher perspective, and to act from the higher perspective, and put the ego in its place as the child running amok that doesn't know what it's doing. 3D is a world of egos run by children. That's the truth of it. And then 4D, we're starting to have the awareness of that, and we're having moments of stepping back into it, but moments too of aligning to the bliss and magic and beauty and joy and grace and abundance consciousness, because we're no longer stepping into me. We're expanding into us and more deeper into being of service. But there's still a lot of trauma that we're working with, a lot of false beliefs, judgments, programs, stories, that we're in the awareness that we're shifting. And then as we move more into the 5D, we initially step deeper into the love within ourselves, loving ourselves, appreciating ourselves, acknowledging ourselves, because for so much of our lives, for many of us as energetically sensitive souls, we gave so much of that energy out and we bring it in, but it's a process still where it requires a lot of our effort initially until it becomes naturally aligned, where we wake up and actually it's just the soul dictating the higher self aspects, the beloved I am presence, our universe, as I also call it, our divinity, our light that's guiding us in each moment along the organic timelines. So imagine a world where every single person is aligned and operating from the energy of their higher selves and beloved I am presence.
Wow. Anrita, that was unbelievable. Woo! I can't even come back to say one last thing I wanted to mention to you, ask you. Is the lady that was just on talking with you, she mentioned, because I have a spinal cord injury at the C5 level, and
I
you helped
see.
me. Yes, I ran into a teacher. Her name is Amy Flynn, and she had a spa that the angels come in and you can run for an hour every time you run it as long as you want every single day, and you can run that. And it was it's her name was Amy Flynn, but she had an angelic spa, and the angels work on your back, and they put oil, on your body and everything. They have 4 angelic oils. So I just want to mention that to her, because I know I don't have money to pay for massage therapists and stuff right now.
Okay.
You know.
Yes,
So
that's so lovely. Well, actually, what you can also do, that does remind me for years, I worked with the inner plane galactic healing team. So there's also a really lovely one that you can do apart from that music and apart from, and they did a lot of the craniosacral work. So in my initial awakening, where I was connecting to the galactic aspects of myself, I called forth an etheric medical team.
wow.
And that came through initially from, gosh, I'm going back many years, but that was initially from Michelle Small-Wright. She had this medical assistance team that he worked
Oh,
with and that you work with. It's the Brotherhood of the Light. So these are surgeons and chiropractors and maybe dentists and who knows what else that work here, and they passed over because we have a lot of healing temples on the inner plates for souls
can
that
you
pass over or for souls that are traveling
can you
in
mention
their sleep time.
her name again,
Oh, you don't
because
need
of
to know her name.
just call the
It's
map
Michelle's
team?
all right. What I want to share with you rather is just how you invoke them. So you
Okay.
take a moment and you say, I call in and invoke the etheric medical team, and I invite in the Brotherhood of the Light medical assistance team,
Medical
and she
assistant,
brought in the overlighting deep of healing and Pan
Diva and
as
Pan,
my higher self aspects.
by
And the
itself.
reason she brought that in is because she was working with nature a lot. So the overlighting diva of healing aligns into your original divine 8 cell blueprint. It's a healing energy, David consciousness. And Pan is a bridge between the nature and the human, or the evolutionary aspects of ourselves and the involutionary aspects of nature. But all you need to do is that you can just call in your own galactic team, or you can call in the Brotherhood of the Light. I later then just transform this into calling in a galactic healing team. And I do that still in almost everything I do. I call in my own galactic healing team, my higher self aspects, my master guides,
Yes,
and
the guy
all other illumined beings that wish to join me now.
was to join me.
And then
Wow.
sit in that space for about half an hour. And what you'll find, what I used to find, is a lot of chiropractic work. I would do, like, my head would come forward and backwards and from side to side. And then, of course, you're working a spine. You work in different parts of the body depending on what you need. And then from there, I also moved into these chambers of light. So the chambers of light hold particular information that we can access as we bring them in as these multidimensional laser light grids, rectangular grids of light around us. So it's a really wonderful one to work with too. There's so much out there that is helping us. There
Thank
comes a
you,
point where your
Anrita.
beloved I am, yes.
I appreciate it. God bless you.
Yes, yes, you're most welcome. You're most welcome, right? There comes a point where the beloved I am presence just brings forth all that we need. But these are just wonderful things to work with. I still love it. And I also make my own beautiful essences. You can take your crystals and place it in water and make your own beautiful essences. Place those crystals, whether they're just crystals such as amethyst or rose quartz or whatever it might be. Or I used a lot of Andara crystals. The difference between the two is the Andara crystals, they actually create light codes, where the normal crystals, they actually limited in the light codes that they can do. So this is like an organic process of continuous light codes, and I call them Andarian beings. I actually make these just beautiful Andarian jewelry also. I just love the Andarian energy. But you can take, whether it's your Andara crystals or whether it's your beautiful normal crystals, place it in a jug of water, put it in the sun for the day, and you have a wonderful crystal essence, and you drink that also. There is a gazillion things that we can do to help ourselves.
Thank you again. I love everything. I felt the difference in what you told me to call in. It felt like an aspect of a fragment of myself was being repaired. Thank
Yes.
you.
Nice. Nice. You're most welcome, right? Mhm.
Now we can fully understand why Anrita is such a marvelous, spectacular, prolific spiritual teacher, right? She's just full of wisdom and she's lived it. She has lived it and worked it in her life. All right, Tamra, hi.
Hey, Tamara.
Hello, beautiful beings. Hello. You can hear me okay?
Yes.
It's just, I get low network bandwidth on my computer here. So, wow, wow, wow. The psychosis, the madness, the confusion, uh, all of it applied to me, especially over the last 3 years. There's certainly a lot more. Two quick questions. How are the chakras changing, if they are, and also as we're going from the carbon to silicate to the crystal, I noticed that yesterday, I'm going to admit it because it's true, I ate a 2-pound bag of mandarin oranges. Like it's like really going more towards the fruit, getting away from it's just the meat and stuff. It just doesn't have. So, how is it also affecting our eating and
Mm,
patterns?
mm, mm. Well, there's a couple of things I'm going to jump around there just a little bit. The first is for that psychosis state and that depression. Ashwagandha is very useful. Shazandra is very useful. I know AIM has got a couple of products, Composure. There's a lot of different things that you can actually try just to stabilize the mood, apart from getting out and the sun gazing, because, of course, not only is that working from the light codes and bringing that through into the body, although we may feel a bit of nausea with that, that's why every morning I have a drink with ginger and turmeric and cinnamon and actually some reishi mushroom powders. They're very, very helpful in my morning and evening teas. But that is a very, very useful one to work with. So in terms of what you're talking about with the food, of course, there comes a point naturally where foods that are very dense, we don't want in our bodies. And particularly things that are more hormonally injected and of course traumatized. If we look at just from a energetic perspective of a lot of those animals, they're not loved. It's not like mostly like free range chickens, if I'm going to make a comparison in terms of meat, or free range lamb or something. You're eating a lot of the time very traumatized meat, and you're putting that in your body. So apart from the trauma, meat itself is very dense. White meat is better, fish is a bit better, but there comes a point where the body will naturally want to eat lighter. But what occurs with us through the light body is that there's different phases that we go through where we eat particular foods too. So in your instance, it could have just been that the body is really just needing a lot of vitamin C. If you start to listen to your body and tune into your body, it will often share with you exactly what you need. So I know in that initial stage for the crystalline light body, the body sometimes goes through it wants a lot of carbs. And then salt. So I would sit and eat bags of potato crisps, with salted potato crisps. So your body expands also for a while. I think it's all the photonic air bubbles within, and the hips and the body literally changes shape for a while before you come back to perhaps your former size. Everything expands for a while. And then there came a point where it was a lot of like dark chocolates and, 80% plus on the dark chocolates. So you got to listen to your body. And then other times it was just high protein. I got into the nuts, and olives became a thing for months and months and months. It was all I ate. Excuse me. So in that instance, it could be just that your body was needing kind of a lot of huge vitamin C, or needing that citrus for something. So what I try to do is just really honor what my body's needing. I have particular things that I eat regularly, as we all do. And it's definitely lighter, more living, because I find that the living, so I like to sprout, I like salads. I make things like kimchi and kombucha, things that actually are like microbes for the gut, because the microbes of the gut actually affect also the consciousness. So trying to really keep the body in that state of healthy, clean eating becomes very, very useful for us. Also, I put things in my water. For example, I put salt in the jugs of water that I have. That's very useful for the body, the salt. I also am trying to think, I put in some sort of drops that MMS, they're called, where it actually cleans the water. I have a little oxygen, I forget what it's called. It's like a little, ozone generator. So what I do is I've got a little ozone generator, and I put that in my water for about 15, 20 minutes, and then I oxygenate the water, and then I drink that also with my charcoal activated water. So water becomes very important for us too, what we're putting into our bodies, and particularly in terms of not only having a lot of water, but having very clean water that goes into our bodies. So everything then becomes a focus on eating more organic, eating the foods that agree with our bodies, but also in terms of our water, really just seeing it. So I've made my beautiful Andara crystal essences. I put it in my water. I put the salt in the water, the Celtic salt, oxygenated water, put some drops that cleans all the germs in the water. And then all my water, I make activated charcoal water too. So you got to just feel into what can work for you, but it does become important over time to clean the body on different levels. Oh, and recently I did a parasite cleanse also, just again, parasite cleansing. And then a few weeks later, I did like a gallbladder liver cleanse. So these things are just also useful now and then to do for the body. I don't know if that's helpful. Yes. So tomorrow.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I just kind of knew. It was just that I've noticed just the real shift in the other day. I just had listened to somebody about being a fruitarian, and it was, I've said almost for the last year or so, it was like, if I could eat fruit, I'd be happy, just fruit, and
Yes.
survive.
Well, there actually comes a point where we
So,
don't actually need
in,
food at all when we embody more light.
yes,
So, but then it's a choice. I mean, I like food. So personally, I don't know that I would say necessarily that I might or might not, because I can't say what the next moment brings. But in this moment, I'm quite happy to continue to eat. But the awareness is of eating food that is clean, eating food that is more living, eating food that is whole, eating food that assists in the regeneration process of my body. So for me, for example, I don't like to eat a lot of cooked food. It feels like dense for my body. And I try to eat a little bit later in the day too, because if I eat too early, then the food also, it takes time to digest. And it takes away then from a lot of that energy that you can be utilizing for your service work. So, but I know that, a lot of us have this thing with food, and particularly very energetic, sensitive souls. And I went through that when I was younger, just sticking in everything into my mouth to dense the frequency. And for a while, you need to be there, and then you start to shift. So just honor your body. And the big thing is, no matter where you are, not to judge yourself. So even if you're still working and you're having these moments where you're eating like the one day, just everything that doesn't agree with your body because you're going through some sort of emotional thing that you're clearing, just honor it. The next day, instead of waking up and belittling yourself or judging yourself or blaming yourself or being critical of yourself, just love yourself more. And just that's okay. I understand why I did that. And, today is going to be a better day. And just make the choice if you can, meaning as you
Yes,
can, but
absolutely.
to hold that alignment to all that is highest aligned.
Yes, yes, absolutely. So anything about the like the chakras shifting,
Okay.
changing, is that
Yes,
kind
yes,
of
yes. So what
part of the
happens?
spine?
Yes, okay. So firstly, from the loving heart, as I call the heart and thymus, that becomes a toroidal field. So the chakras then start to spin, they actually become a funnel when we're clearing. So we have they become from vortices, they become a funnel. But what happens is the lower three chakras, in particular, for a very long time, we keep cycling back to, because they represent for us the lower dimensions. And there comes a point where the chakras actually not only unify in one column of light, but actually we start to get more chakras. That's our new earth bodies. So from a 3D and 4D perspective, we generally have like 7, 8 chakras. And from the new earth system, we have 12 chakras. So, and it's all within the body. Everything starts to shift. But, there's many more that start to come online too. And the colors also change. But the primary thing for us in the beginning is the Fibonacci ratios that will create a specific frequency of the relative harmony. One could say that for each chakra and what it needs, but also it starts to form from the vortex into the funnel, and it starts to create then the frequency of light that can sustain and support the light body. But initially, what we're doing is we're moving through a lot of the clearing. And mostly in the clearing, the chakras spin in a counterclockwise direction. And when we are recoding and moving forward, they spin in a clockwise direction. And generally speaking, for us, the front chakras would represent the movement forward, and the back chakras would represent the past. But that isn't always true now once it becomes a funnel. That's only when it's a vortex. So everything is occurring within the body. It's not just the chakras, it's also the axonal lines. The axonal lines lie along the acupuncture meridian lines, and they connect into the body through the spin points of sound and color frequencies that actually starts to shift the frequency of every body part and organ too. Then we have the nadis. We have also, apart from the primary kundalini that's activating up the spine, we also have the secondary kundalini channels, and we've got the Ida and Pingala channels that also crisscross, and they connect into the nose, um, close to where the sinus passages are. So there's so much that the body goes through in this transformation, with colors changing, toroidal fields activating, chakras aligning, and shifting into very specific Fibonacci ratios that actually also assist us to shift dimensionally. So it's a very interesting thing, but mostly too, we start to connect more deeply into the sacred geometries and into the sound and color frequencies.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Anrita.
You're most welcome, Tamara. You're most welcome.
Okay, thank you. I want to make sure that people know about the practitioner training course. It's a beautiful way to bring this into your life. And so if there's any questions on that, please let us know. I did see a question earlier about maybe you could show a graphic. I know you've got an infographic, but there is Evelyn would like a chart of the if you could go over the overall positions and the numbers along the spine, say for example,
Yes.
C1 and C7, etc., that would help them visualize. And you've got that.
Yes, I do, Lorraine. So let me see if I can find it here and share the screen. And I apologize for being a little bit sideways because I'm using another camera. I had some camera issues. Let me just see. I'm going to share it now.
Okay.
Let me find it. So here we go. Bring it down a bit.
Wow, look at that.
Yeah. All right. So as a practitioner, what you would receive is your practitioner training manual. And your practitioner training manual is really quite detailed. So if you were to do this sacred spine alignment quantum healing activation as a full session, you would probably be looking at around 2.5 hours. So 2.5, maybe 3 hours, because you're going to add a little bit of your own talking, sharing, listening to what your soul client is sharing with you on, what their needs are. And so that is one way to do it, to a full session, whether you're doing it online, whether you're doing it in person. Now, this is just a lovely thing then to print out. And I'll tell you where it becomes very helpful. If you are choosing to do, say, half-hour sessions or 1-hour sessions, what's really nice about this is that you can just take a piece of paper. I will give you a little chart or 2 pieces of paper where you can cut out the numbers 1 to 33. And then what you're going to do, if you are doing a half-hour session, or rather an hour session, what would be work really well in that is to take about 8 you choose 8 of those numbers between 1 and 33. And those then are the numbers that you're going to be working with along the spine for the client. So, if you choose number 1, for example, then you know that you're going to be going to the bottom of the spine. What that's about, it's groundedness, but also it's about a loss of power or old or stubborn anger. So there's many things that then you can get a sense of depending on what the soul client is working with. And it's just a really nice one. This chart you can actually print up to, let's say, size A4 or probably bigger if you wanted to go A2, for example. And I would probably laminate it and work with it too. So each of them, tells you exactly what you're working with. And you can choose number. Let's say I choose number 9. That's miracles and magic. So, that's sacrum 5. So I know exactly what that is. So I will present this to you, but then I will also give you another one that will actually indicate, exactly which part of the spine that you're working with. But this is just a really good infographic to show you exactly what the numbers are, when you can choose it quickly, when you're sharing with your clients. So even as you set up, if you're going to do an hour session, you've chosen your numbers, you're doing something online or you're doing something in person, and all you're going to do if you're doing in person is stand there and just put your hands on their spine. It's not that you're going to just put your hands just on this area or that area. You're going to work through the whole spine. Just put your hands and visualize those golden infinity symbols. So that's all essentially you're doing, because the beloved I am presence, as I was expressing previously, the beloved I am presence is actually directing and connecting with your beloved I am presence to orchestrate this beautiful quantum healing session. And all you are doing is the facilitator holding that sacred space and reading then each of those quantum healing activations for each of the vertebrae that we call the sacred gateways. So it's a very powerful way to actually work. So my suggestion is either do a full session, which would be approximately 2.5 to 3 hours, or take your soul client through a series where they're just coming and, in an hour session, you could still have time. Maybe this would take, say, 40 minutes to do about approximately 8, and then you're still spending a little bit of time together, seeing where they are. They can have this beautiful session. 5 minute sacred space setting, and then at the end you can see how they're feeling and working with it. And that energy, because it's a quantum healing energy, is going to be continuously worked with for them for quite a while. And they will have a recording, hopefully, that they can continuously work with, which will also deepen that experience. So you get your practitioner training manual, you will get the infographic, you will get this one, and then you will get another one that will just show exactly what each of the 33 vertebra or sacred gateways are along the spine. Then you will also get, I call it a marketing page that you can put up on your website, or you can put up on your landing page, whatever it might be. And then that is going to be written in a different tone, because many of your soul clients might come to you not because they are wanting to ascend right now. They might have a lot of back pain. They might have just a lot of rigidity or anger or emotions that are coming up, and they want to shift that. So they just feel a lot of discomfort. So it's a very nice one to be able to work with them in order to work through the spine and allow the photonic and plasma light frequencies to start to move from the cerebrospinal fluid to express into more of a movement for them, into a flow for them. Remember that the cerebrospinal fluid, that golden river, expresses a flow. So you're shifting them into higher frequency, higher dimension, possibly into quantum jumping, but you're doing it through working with the physical body. And the moment you're working with the physical body, you're assisting in lifting the consciousness of the physical body. So it's a very powerful one that you can do in person, or you can do quantumly, or you can do online.
Okay, it is so comprehensive, and this is practitioner training, sacred spine practitioner, helping people in their ascension process, activating through the solar codes of the spine. Fascinating. And as you guys can already tell, Anrita goes all out on this, your own professionally written marketing and website page. That is beautiful. She really does the work for you so you can step right in and access this. So get yourself going, get certified. You're going to get a practitioner certificate with this. And on July 26th is a live training session with Anrita. That's going to be beautiful and go even deeper so that you really can hit the ground running with this. All right, beautiful hearts. Thank you for that. All right, we have time for one more. Lynn, thank you for your patience. We can take your question now.
Thank you, Loren, and thank you, Anrita. What a joy to be with you both and everyone today. I'm remembering yesterday something that or the way you were working through the spine, referencing the cerebrospinal fluid, and I just wanted to make sure that I understood correctly, or you could clarify. Because my understanding from physical anatomy is that the cranial sacral fluid that is created in the brain comes all the way down to T12, but it doesn't actually go down into the lumbar and sacral, because that's where the cauda equina nerve bundle and roots are. But it seemed like you were working as if you were bringing the fluid down into the lumbar, sacral, and coccyx areas. So is that working with it just on a purely energetic area or way
Yes.
in those areas?
Yes, well, everything in the body is shifting. The light body, it's a completely different anatomy to
Okay.
the physical body, isn't
Yes.
it? So a lot of what we're experiencing is energetic, but it's also very real within the body. I mean, even star particle crystals are very real within the body. The plasma light, photonic light. How do you share that with medical people? You can't, because they won't know what you're talking about. So what I'm saying is that the cerebrospinal fluid represents the golden river of the Divine Mother of Grace. And it is also just a really beautiful frequency of crystalline consciousness, of Christ consciousness, that holds the energy of the soul. And what that is doing is you can imagine the soul light expanding into every single vertebra with each vertebra represented as a sacred gateway to the divine. Does it help you, Lynn?
Oh, it's beautiful, and thank you for, just the clarification on the physical terms and then the energetic, plasmic, photonic terms. It's really
It's
spectacular.
not really so important up to what point the cerebrospinal fluid flows, but of course it is in another level, because the cerebrospinal fluid is a huge thing of that golden light frequency that's coming up and down the spine. And as it's going back up the spine, what it's doing is it's also creating, it's not only the flow that we're moving into in the trajectory of higher timelines and alignment to the divine, but it also places pressure upon the pineal gland. And that pressure then creates the expulsion or release of the star particle crystals into the body.
And
But
is
that's
that,
just one thing that occurs for us.
and is that one description of the Kundalini rising and what happens from the
No,
energetic
it's not.
energy?
The
It's
Kundalini and the cerebrospinal fluid are very different. The Kundalini is part of that, but the Kundalini also brings through other light frequencies that are that activate through the chakras. So, so one could say they all work together. They might all have a specific role, but they're all working together. The Kundalini energy, it's like a pranic chi energy, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's awakening the whole body. That healing energy, once we activate the heart as a primary stargate, once the solar plexus activates as the golden sun frequency within the body, then through the perineum, we also have the stargate that activates that sacred sexual energy. That sacred sexual energy is different to the grace of the Divine Mother through the cerebrospinal fluid. That sacred sexual energy is itself a vortex that activates the pranic healing energy into every cell. So every cell experiences, one could say, a cosmic orgasm of blending of the masculine and feminine within each cell for the divine alchemical process to transmute old earth frequencies into the consciousness of light.
Beautiful. Thank you. Wow. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Exquisite.
Thank you. All right. Such good questions. I absolutely love it. And I really liked our total 3-day experience. And Rita, you just are so elevating for all of us. And our work is cut out for us as we know what our ascension journey is. So thank you for that. And we're looking forward to the training. Did you want to add any last feature about that live class that you'll be teaching? Any sneak peek at that?
Well, it should be around about 2 to 3 hours. I can't say really exactly now until we move into it. But the practitioner training is going to be really beautifully written and very in depth and give you a sense of how you can work on so many different levels. But also remember, everything that we're doing here is really part of your own transformation, of you becoming the embodiment of your soul, higher selves, and beloved I am presence. And now this work will just take you into the next level of that, because that's what this work does. The moment you align now with another healing modality that is deeply connected to your soul consciousness and your beloved I am presence, all you're doing is saying to your universe, take me into that next level where all is highest aligned. Assist me as I take my body through this healing process into the wholeness and the knowing that I am the light of God, that I am my beloved I am presence. And it also assists in taking you into the next level of the light body and the divine architecture of your new earth body. So it's a very beautiful one where you're both giving and receiving and just deepening into the own magnificent, beautiful light that you are. And that's what always really gets me so excited, is that we just work so beautifully through our loving hearts and through our higher minds and through our consciousness and our light. And it's always just such a pleasure to connect with every single one of you. So I look really greatly forward to all those joining us as Sacred Spine practitioners And of course, even those that are just receiving now and don't feel the need to take it further, that's really perfect. And I feel like if you really, really would like to come, but you're just not able, then send an email and let's also see what we can do to assist if you feel really guided. Send us a small understanding of really how this could help you in your own life and with your soul clients. And we can take a look at that too. So thank you so much for this opportunity to come together with you. And thank you, beautiful Lorraine. It's always just such a pleasure to co-create with you. So namaste, beautiful, beloved light tribe. Really, I feel that deep sense of all of us coming together as one heart and one love and one unified field of light. So thank you so much just for that opportunity on its own. Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you all for being here. We are feeling the love and the light of our hearts, and it's so beautiful. And I imagine that world where everyone is connected in this way. Nice work, everyone. Thank you. Thank you, Anrita. Thank you. Thank you. Bye, everyone. Blessings. Namaste.
This has been a presentation of New Earth One Network, your home for New Earth living. Access information, education, and videos on living from the heart in unity consciousness. Visit newearth1.com.